Thus concludes the Langris battle between Jack the Ripper, Yami, and of course Finral. But this is setting up a lot more for what is potentially to be the grand finale for this arc, because we thought that this arc just kept going and going, and it's like really heading places, and like considering that a lot of people recently and all that, and I've been really happy to seeing that a lot of people I've been seeing are like, no, it's just only on my Twitter, but also as well like in like just comment sections and everything, saying like, hey shit, like I've actually been checking out Black Clover now, and it's like, you know, whilst, you know, I think everyone can agree where it's like, ooh, the start of this series is like, I don't know, it's really rough. It's like, it really sets itself up a lot more later on, and especially that this arc, like, especially with where we are right now in the anime, where it's like, we just keep going higher and higher and higher, like with the quality, and it's just like, I cannot wait for this stuff and all that. It's like, if we ever get a chance for this stuff to ever be animated and all that, it's just like, I would love at least just this arc, if anything, could like, get that time to shine and what it truly deserves, because it does so much goddamn stuff on there. But it is time to talk about like this conclusion to the Brothers of Spatial Magic, I should say, as we're going to dive right into 181. So immediately on there we get to see like Langris like going crazy, like holding down his like claw like that, ready to like, if only it's slightly and all that, I'm just gonna kill all you guys together and all that. And it's like, you know, too bad, like, you human pieces of shit. But they both went in and all that, like on there it was like, no matter what and all that, my blade is going to be faster than your actual technique on there, as long as like I can rip it up. And Yami comes in straight up and he's like, go to sleep, you old kid, like that. And he's just like using the Anvita blade like on there just to take him out on there, the same technique that he did against what we got to see against Vito, albeit like we do notice, I mean, he does use the reverse edge of the blade, so he's using the blunt side of it just to try and take him down. He's like, he realizes like, well, better take this kid down if anything on there, we can't have that. But this is not enough, because like he gets hit by it and he's like immediately like, as he screams as if you humans would know anything about me and all that, like as you could even handle it. It's just like, it is ripping apart the entire like Colosseum, like just area of the palace and all that. And he's just like these massive like for like two orbs that just ripped up the palace to shreds on there. And he's just like he's like, you should just disappear and all that. And he's just like, what is up with this guy? And it's just like, it's over already, like on that, as like Finral's like holding out and all that. He's like, he didn't, like, he was so busy and all that, like he completely forgot about me, like, of all people on there, like about his magic. So he was too preoccupied with everyone, like, you know, with Jack, with Yami. The fact of the matter is that he got in there, used his own teleport. For once, like Finral was using a physical attack on there, as he just comes in, grit your teeth, Langris, ooh, just straight crunch him in the face. And I'm like, oh my word, like immediately, you know, man, it's just like, you know, and having this very weird conversation between the two on there, where it's like this seemingly like trying to drag him out on there. They tell him, he's like, I'm sorry for being late, brother, and all that, as he just knocks him out. And he was on his last legs, to say the least, and like, it feels weird. It's like, oh really, Langris? But it had to be done by his hand, and it was like, again, I still think like like anything and all that with Finral, it's like the fact that it's like he is still that support character, where it's like he can't do anything, like he cannot use any certain like sort of techniques like that. That's just sort of how he is. And the fact of the matter is that it took all three of them and all that. So I'm a little weirded, like just a punch. I thought it would be a little bit more on there, but like it was still pretty exciting on that. He's just like, oh, immediately like with Yami, he's just like, you goddamn idiot and all that. You just like, you stole the goddamn show. And he's like, well, I guess you did alright, huh? Like on that Finral, you did at least adequate. Then the second part of this chapter happens, which is we get to see Patry on there, or, you know, some people still like to call him Leet and everything, but he arrives back to like the castle, where he's just straight up flying now. Like, even though we saw that in the anime, like he is straight full on like Super Saiyan, like DBZ levels of like, I can just fly, how they're going, like, please now. Then we meet Gauche and his sister, where it's like, we get the full confirmation. It's like, yes, they are elves, this is what they look like right now. We can confirm that he's fully transformed. Same thing can be said with his sister as well. And he's just like, huh, I assumed that little transformation from you and all that. And we find out that his name is Droit, and her name is Ekra, like the reincarnations. Like, as we see, like, Raya there as well. He's like, oh, like, it's good to see you again on there, like, fully transformed in different, like attire now on there, and he's just like, immediately they go, hey, what about, like, you know, Raya, what of Lee and all that, we need to do that. And he's just like, oh, and I was like, I'm not sure if it's because he's in an artificial body, or is it because he's activated himself due to the forbidden magic, but he's currently sleeping right now, and his memories have not completely returned yet. So that's pretty much, if anything, that's implying. And it's like with what they saw, at least with Yuno, it's like, yeah, Yuno is the reincarnation of Lee. That's what they're pretty much going with right now. And so far and all that is like how they're talking about his body, which is kind of interesting on there. So I at least like where we've been going, where it's like he has been Leeds, or Yuno is his child. That's kind of where we were going for a while. So it's going to be interesting. And the fact that they say artificial body has me interested, because guess who, like, if anything, with Yuno and Asta both arrived at the same time, and this would explain a little bit more about what exactly is up with Yuno and Asta, because of the fact it's like one child that has this insane adaptability of like having magic, while another one is like the negative. Like, you're thinking like two batteries, plus and minus right here, like two polar opposites. And it's like, we even have this hinted as well from the Witch Queen as well, where she said something about Asta, about his body, and saying like, oh, you are that kind of thing, where it's like she was probably implying that he was artificially made. So that, wherever that came from, so maybe the fact that he was artificially made, maybe using elves, while the thing with Asta that he was used maybe with demons perhaps. I mean, that's the whole canonical thing that we're going out right now. But they are talking of saying like, we need to gather up everyone and all that, and the humans and all that are all tied up to the, you know, Golden Dawns on there, and the castle's been like pretty crazy right now and all that, as they're like kind of talking to say like, I guess, you know, like Latchery went a little bit crazy a little bit, like taking out the castle, and he's just like, look, we have to, they assume, if anything, on that the king, oh no, lives no more, but they talk about a final magic stone that is inside that castle, where it's like, we need to use that, and then that will take the side effects of what they're calling this forbidden magic, which is known as Wicked Heart. Apparently, this will wash away from them, and they'll be completely fully reincarnated, and then we can wipe out all humans, and elves can live in a world of peace. So immediately with what they're talking about is that the fact that it's like, once they use this, then those the originators of those bodies, so if we have that, like, William's going to be completely gone. The same thing with like Langris as well, where it's like every other like magician and all that. So the fact is that we use that, then there's the hint that Yuno's going to be completely gone, or the others. And again, that with what they implied on that with Yuno is like, I find that very interesting. Now again, they could be talking about a different character, but out of everyone that we saw in like how they were acting as elves, he was the only one that was like acting kind of like a blank expressionless doll out of everyone. So, and it wasn't until Asta screamed out to him where it's like, so he is either two things. He's either the actual reincarnation of Leet, or he is his child, which would kind of explain what the two. So if anything, that it would be the more logical sense now, and kind of wiping out the theory about the child, and more that is what Yuno is, and talking more about the fact of the matter is he has an artificial body, which explains like what's going on from like compared to the others. And that could also as well be a huge hint as well about Asta, is that Asta is an artificial human as well. So again, the real thing spicing up, and like the chapter, that's not even like the ending of the chapter. The chapter ends with the fact that we look at the giant castle, and Yami takes a drag out of his smoke, and he's like, you know what? There's a lot of strong people up there. And it's just like, you know, well, I wonder what all the Black Bull morons and the Magic Knights are doing right now. So, how about me and you, Jack, on there? How about we hop over there and say hi? So, Yami and Jack have not had enough, and it's like, a lot of screen time is getting given to Yami. It almost feels like now it's like, Tabata just wants to be like, so how about we just make Yami a main character now, considering how popular he is? And I'm not complaining, because I love having a lot of Yami, but even still, I've been like, you look at the ending, it's like, oh, the 181 is the ending, and it's like, you still see Asta's little face there, and it's like, it's been a very good chunk since we've seen Asta again. So even still, it's like, I kind of like seeing the main character again, because I don't mind Asta, but I always welcome some Yami time, and like everyone's been getting a little bit of their moment to shine recently. It's just been a lot with Yami though, I'd say recently, so that's very good. If anything, this chapter was interesting. It puts a lot of pieces together now with what exactly Asta and Yuno are, and the fact of the matter is it's like we still don't have their full story. It's just that now it adds a little bit more of context to the Witch Queen, and it would probably say the same thing if Yuno was there, where it's like, oh, that is what is up with you. So I find that very interesting since they were both found at the same time. So we want, somehow they were either experimented on or what. The fact is that we don't know what was the purpose between Yuno and Asta. Why exactly those two? Where did they originally come from? But that's what we've got so far, is that the theory is that they are artificial children and they were created. So it explains that they never had parents and that they were always together since birth, and more the fact that like the elites is especially as well, where it's like, what is going on with like Yuno, and it's like whether or not it's still the two theories, like it either is Lee or Lee's child, or that he did reincarnate and that's why he didn't have a soul, but it seemingly that's what it is. And if they get this final little stone right now, this is there could be potentially the end of saying goodbye to Yuno as a character, so I find that very interesting. But this was a pretty quick, heavy chapter to take in. A lot of stuff going in there, so I'm very curious to see what you guys think in the comments section down below about this chapter of Black Clover. It's really heating up. This is ramping up to the finale of this arc as well, where it's like, we're now at like everyone approaching the final stage. Asta and his group is going to be arriving there. Yami, is going to be on there. Jack, we're probably going to have a rematch there with Charlotte, like the elf version of Charlotte in there, so it's going to be quite interesting to say the least. But that's all from me. Thanks always for watching, and I'll see you guys though next time.